It is finally here. Can we say that again? Finally. After a long and crazy election season, today is your chance to decide the next president of the United States. And we have NKU political science professor Dr. Ryan Salzman here. I would say one last time, but you'll be back here this evening.
That's right. But can we do this? Can we do this? Yeah,
we made it.
We made it
after what seems like years. So let's start. You will be here this evening on Fox 19. What states should we be watching for tonight? We talked about Pennsylvania last week. Has anything changed?
For me, it's still Pennsylvania. I think that a lot of people would add New Hampshire and North Carolina and, of course, Florida. I think Florida goes without saying. But a lot of these are East Coast states, and so some of the reason to pay attention to those is just because the polls will close earlier. But New Hampshire has a really tight Senate race as well. So does Pennsylvania, and so does North Carolina. And I think that's what makes them particularly interesting. If we're going to throw in another one, I think Nevada is one that we have to pay really close attention to. But again, those polls won't be closing until pretty late tonight.
Okay, so what does early voting tell us?
Early voting are really good numbers for Hillary right now. For a lot of you voted early, probably in Ohio, not so much in Kentucky. But a lot of early voting numbers stack up well for the Democrats. But surprisingly, in states like Florida, they're not overwhelming. That is, that the early voting numbers seem to be not as strong for Hillary as they were for Barack Obama in 2012. And of course, how can we know how people voted early? All we can look at are their party affiliations. Are Democrats showing up to vote for Donald Trump? Are Republicans showing up to vote for Hillary Clinton? We do not know. So we're just projecting out. And it's worth noting that in Florida, where over 6 million votes have been cast early, over 20% of those are independents, and they're breaking about 45 to 45% for the two candidates. So a lot of uncertainty, but it does look like the early voting numbers favor Hillary Clinton.
Right, she leads by about a 3%, but there is a margin of error. We talked about that before, and we've also talked about how sometimes people could still be embarrassed about who they're voting for, namely Donald Trump, and this just goes with history, as we saw in the primary. What do you think about that?
So one of the reports that I saw this week listed off all of the things we don't know, and it was about a half a page of questions that we don't know. What we call the shy Trump voter is one of those that you reference, where people don't want to report that they're voting for Donald Trump. But then there is this margin of error question, and that's that for these polls, if they're within 3 or 4 points, they could be statistically tied at this point. And so what we need to look at, especially for those of you who are really into following it very closely, get your polls, the last high-quality polls that you can find, and then follow which way they're falling. And is there going to be a systematic difference? That is, if Hillary Clinton's leading by 3 points in a state and she wins it by 5, and then we see another poll where she's leading by 1 and she wins it by 3, then that could lead us to feel that it's falling that way. And the same is true for Donald Trump. Is it a systematic polling error or not?
I feel like you're springing a little math on me a little too early there, Ryan. Hey, before we go, quick question, super quick. Does the loser have to concede?
No, the loser does not have to concede. The presidential election is concluded when the Electoral College files its votes in a few weeks.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Good luck tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Drink a lot of coffee for us. We want to go out right